The wounded stranger. The alarm screamed through the corridors of Mining Station Alpha 7, its harsh red light painting the metal walls in bloody shadows. Dr. Elena Voss dropped her coffee mug and rushed toward the emergency bay, her medical kit bouncing against her hip as she ran through the narrow passages of the asteroid mining facility. "What's the situation?" she called out to Captain Rodriguez, who was already at the main console, his weathered face creased with worry. "Crash site about 2 kilometers from the main shaft," Rodriguez replied, his fingers dancing across the holographic display. "Unknown. Vessel. Completely wrecked. Sensors are picking up what might be a life form, but the readings are strange." Elena felt her heart rate increase. In her 15 years as a xenobiologist, she had studied dozens of alien species through data transmissions and preserved specimens, but she had never encountered a living alien being. The Terran Colonial Authority had strict protocols about first contact situations, most of which involved immediate quarantine and waiting for specialized teams from Earth. "I need to get out there," Elena said, already checking her environmental suit seals. "If something's alive, it won't stay that way for long in this environment." Rodriguez grabbed her arm. "Elena, you know the regulations. We're supposed to establish a perimeter and wait for the xenobiology team from Sector Command. They could be here in 6 weeks." Elena looked at the captain with determination burning in her brown eyes. 6 weeks? "Rodriguez, if there's a sentient being out there, it'll be dead in 6 hours. I took an oath to preserve life regardless of species." The captain stared at her for a long moment, then sighed. "Take Henderson and Martinez with you. And Elena, be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with." The journey across the asteroid's surface took 40 minutes in the all-terrain rover. The crashed ship was unlike anything in Elena's extensive database of known vessels. Its hull appeared to be grown rather than constructed, with organic curves that seemed to flow like frozen water. The metal itself had a strange, opalescent quality that shifted colors as they approached. "Readings indicate the hull is breached in 3 locations," Henderson reported from the scanner station. "Whatever's inside has been exposed to vacuum for at least 2 hours. Elena's heart sank. Nothing could survive that long in the void of space without protection. But as they approached the largest breach in the hull, her scanner detected something that made her gasp. There's definitely a life form in there, and it's still alive. The interior of the ship was a marvel of biotechnology. The walls pulsed, with faint bioluminescent patterns, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with an energy Elena couldn't identify. In what appeared to be the control center, they found the pilot. The being was tall and graceful, with elongated limbs and skin that had a translucent quality, revealing intricate patterns of light flowing beneath the surface. Its large, dark eyes were closed, and a strange blue-green fluid was seeping from multiple wounds across its torso. Most remarkably, it was breathing. "How is that possible?" Martinez whispered. "It should be dead from vacuum exposure." Elena was already running, her medical scanner over the alien's body. The readings were extraordinary. "Its physiology is completely different from anything we've seen. Look at this. It has some kind of internal atmospheric recycling system. It's been using its own body's reserves to create a breathable environment." The alien's eyes suddenly opened, revealing depths of intelligence and pain that took Elena's breath away. When it spoke, the words bypassed her ears entirely, appearing in her mind with crystalline clarity. "Please," the voice said, carrying overtones of desperation and hope. "I am Zethkar of the Ethon Collective. I flee from those who would destroy my people. I know I am dying, but I must warn others of the coming darkness." Elena felt tears forming in her eyes. She had never experienced direct telepathic communication before, but the alien's pain and urgency were unmistakable. "I'm Dr. Elena Voss," she said aloud, hoping the alien could understand her. "I'm going to help you." "You cannot," Zethkar replied, his mental voice growing weaker. "My biology is too different. I have perhaps 1 of your hours remaining." Elena studied her scanner readings with fierce concentration. The alien's wounds were severe, but what was killing him was something else entirely. His internal energy systems were failing like a battery running down. But Elena had spent years studying exotic energy patterns in her xenobiology research. "Henderson, get back to the station and bring me the quantum resonance generator from Lab 3, she ordered, "and the entire emergency surgical kit." "Elena, what are you doing?" Martinez asked nervously. "Something that's either going to save his life or get us all court-martialed," Elena replied, already beginning to set up her equipment. "His species uses some kind of bioelectric energy system. If I can jumpstart it with the right frequency..." The procedure took 3 hours. Elena worked with methodical precision, using her knowledge of human biology and extrapolating from the alien's unique physiological readings. She had to invent new techniques on the spot, combining human medical knowledge with insights from her xenobiology studies. "His energy patterns are stabilizing," she announced as the quantum resonance generator hummed to life. "The bioelectric field is beginning to regenerate." Zethkar's eyes opened again, and this time they were clear and focused. "You have saved my life, Dr. Elena Voss. This is a debt that cannot be repaid easily." "You don't owe me anything," Elena said, helping the alien to sit up. "I'm a doctor. This is what I do. Among my people, life debts are sacred," Zethkar explained, his mental voice now strong and clear. "You have given me back not just my existence, but my mission. I must warn the galaxy about the Krillian Empire." Elena felt a chill at the mention of the name. The Krillians were known to human intelligence as an aggressive species that had been expanding their territory for decades. But they had never directly threatened human space. They seek to conquer all worlds that show potential for advanced civilization, Zethkar continued. "My people, the Ethon, have been fighting them for generations, but they are too strong, too ruthless. They destroy not just armies, but entire cultures, entire ways of life." "Why are you telling me this?" Elena asked. "Because they will come for your species next," Zethkar said, his large eyes reflecting deep sadness. "Humans show remarkable adaptability and potential. The Krillians will not allow you to develop further. They will come, and when they do, they will show no mercy." Elena helped Zethkar to his feet, noting that his wounds were already beginning to heal with remarkable speed. "Can you make it back to your people?" "Yes, thanks to you. My ship's self-repair systems are already functioning again." Zethkar placed a long, graceful hand on Elena's shoulder. "Dr. Elena Voss, remember this day. Remember that when your species was unknown to mine, you chose to save a life rather than follow regulations. You chose compassion over caution. This choice will echo through time in ways you cannot imagine." Elena watched as Zethkar's ship lifted off from the asteroid's surface, its organic hull flowing and reshaping itself as it prepared for faster-than-light travel. The last thing she heard was his mental voice carrying across the void. "The debt is remembered. When the darkness comes, call for the Ethan. We will answer." Captain Rodriguez was waiting for her when she returned to the station. "Elena, you know I have to report this. The Colonial Authority is going to want a full investigation." Elena nodded, already preparing for the bureaucratic storm that would follow. "I know, Rodriguez, but I'd do it again. Some things are more important than regulations." "The alien mentioned something about a coming war," Rodriguez said quietly. "Do you think we should prepare?" Elena looked out at the stars through the observation window, wondering which one might harbor the Krillian Empire. "I think we should hope we never have to find out if he was right. But yes, we should prepare." 3 weeks later, Elena received her official reprimand from the Colonial Authority. Her actions had violated 17 different first contact protocols, and she was formally censured for endangering the station and potentially compromising humanity's position in galactic politics. But late at night, when Elena looked up at the stars, she remembered Zethkar's words about debts and echoes through time. She had no idea that her simple act of medical compassion would one day determine the fate of every human being alive. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders and terrors in equal measure. Elena had touched both on that day when she chose to save a stranger's life. Now all she could do was wait and see what consequences her choice would bring. 25 years would pass before she got her answer. The growing darkness, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the UES Defiance, watching the smoldering remains of what had once been the thriving colony of New Geneva. The orbital bombardment had been thorough and merciless, leaving nothing but radioactive craters where 2 million humans had lived and worked just 72 hours ago. "That's the 7th colony in 6 months," reported General Marcus Webb, his weathered face grim with the weight of accumulated losses. "The Krillian Empire isn't just conquering our worlds, they're erasing them completely." Sarah nodded, her jaw clenched with barely contained fury. At 45, she had risen through the ranks of Earth's defense force, expecting to face pirates and resource conflicts, not a genocidal empire that seemed determined to exterminate humanity from the galaxy. "What's our current fleet strength?" she asked. 237 capital ships, 462 escort vessels, and about 300,000 Marines scattered across 57 systems, Webb replied. "Against a Krillian force estimated at over 2,000 capital ships and an army of billions." The numbers were stark and terrifying. Humanity had been expanding into space for less than 2 centuries, while the Krillian Empire had been conquering worlds for millennia. Their technology was superior, their military doctrine was ruthless, and their resources seemed infinite. "Admiral," came a voice from the communication station. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth." "It's Dr. Elena Voss from the Xenobiology Institute." Sarah remembered the name from her academy studies. Dr. Voss was legendary in xenobiology circles, famous for her groundbreaking research on alien physiology and her controversial first contact incident 25 years ago. What could she possibly want in the middle of a war? The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a woman in her late 50s with graying hair and intelligent brown eyes that seemed to burn with inner fire. Dr. Voss looked exhausted, but her voice was steady and urgent. "Admiral Chen, I need to speak with you immediately about the Krillian Empire. I have information that could change everything." Sarah glanced at Webb, who shrugged. "Put her through to my private office, secure channel." Minutes later, Sarah found herself face to face with one of humanity's most respected scientists. Dr. Voss wasted no time on pleasantries. 25 years ago, I saved the life of an alien being on mining station Alpha 7. His name was Zethkar, and he was from a species called the Ethan Collective. He warned me that the Krillians would eventually target humanity. Sarah leaned forward in her chair. "Go on." "The Ethan have been fighting the Krillians for generations. They've lost dozens of worlds, but they've also learned how to fight them. More importantly, Zethkar told me that if we ever needed help, we should call for the Ethan. He said they would answer." Sarah felt a surge of hope, quickly followed by skepticism. "Dr. Voss, with respect, that was 25 years ago. How do we even know this alien is still alive? How do we contact them?" Elena's eyes showed a mixture of determination and desperation. "Because 3 days ago I received this." The holographic display shifted to show a complex energy pattern that seemed to pulse with its own rhythm. "This is a quantum entanglement communication beacon. It appeared in my laboratory at the exact moment New Geneva was destroyed. The message is simple. The dead is remembered. Call if you need us." Sarah stared at the pattern, feeling something she hadn't experienced in months. Genuine hope. "Can you activate it?" "I already have," Elena replied. "I sent our current military situation, our fleet positions, and a request for immediate assistance. If Zethkar kept his word, help is coming." The response came 18 hours later, just as the Krillian fleet was beginning its final approach to Earth. The space around Luna Station suddenly erupted with new contacts as dozens of ships emerged from hyperspace. But these weren't human vessels. "Admiral, we've got unknown contacts appearing throughout the system," reported the tactical officer, his voice tight with tension. "I count 47 ships of completely unknown design." Sarah rushed to the bridge, her heart pounding. Either humanity had just been rescued, or they were about to be destroyed by a second enemy force. The lead ship was a thing of beauty, its hull appearing to be grown rather than built, with organic curves that seemed to flow like frozen water. The metal itself had an opalescent quality that shifted colors as it moved through space. Incoming transmission, announced the communications officer. Audio and visual, but the signal is strange. It's bypassing our receivers and going directly to our neural networks. Put it through, Sarah ordered. The main screen flickered, and suddenly Sarah was looking at a tall, graceful being with elongated limbs and translucent skin that revealed intricate patterns of light flowing beneath the surface. Its large, dark eyes held depths of ancient wisdom and unmistakable compassion. Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force, the being said, its voice appearing directly in Sarah's mind with crystalline clarity. I am Supreme Commander Zethkar of the 1st Ethon Liberation Fleet. Dr. Elena Voss saved my life 25 years ago when she had no obligation to do so. She asked nothing in return except that I remember human kindness. Today, we honor that debt. Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. Commander Zethkar, the Krillian Empire has 4,300 ships approaching Earth. Our entire fleet numbers, less than 700. We are aware of the tactical situation, Zethkar replied calmly. We have been monitoring Krillian movements for months, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Ethon Collective has been preparing for this battle for 25 years, ever since I returned home with news of humanity's compassion and potential. 47 ships against 4,300? Sarah asked. How is that possible? Zethkar's expression showed what might have been a smile. Admiral, you are thinking like a human military officer. The Ethon do not fight the way other species fight. We have learned to turn the Krillians' greatest strength into their greatest weakness. On the tactical display, Sarah watched in amazement as the Ethon ships began to move. They didn't arrange themselves in traditional battle formations. Instead, they spread out through the solar system in a complex pattern that seemed to have no military logic whatsoever. What are they doing? General Webb asked, studying the display with confusion. They're not positioning for battle, Sarah realized. They're positioning for something else entirely. The answer came when the Krillian fleet entered the system. Over 4,000 ships arranged in perfect battle formation, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets. At their head was the massive dreadnought Eternal Conquest, flagship of Overlord Vexthul, the architect of humanity's near extinction. Human vessels, came the harsh mechanical voice of the Krillian commander. You will surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. Your species has been judged unworthy of continued existence. Sarah activated the fleet-wide communication channel. All Earth Defense Force vessels, this is Admiral Chen. Today we stand not just for humanity, but for every species that has ever faced tyranny and genocide. Whatever happens, we do not surrender. We do not retreat. We fight until the last ship, the last warrior, the last breath. The response came from 700 ships simultaneously. Understood, Admiral. For Earth, for humanity, for freedom. That was when Zethkar revealed the true nature of the Ethon battle plan. The 47 ships that had seemed so insignificant suddenly began to glow with an inner light that grew brighter and brighter until it was visible across the entire solar system. The Krillians have always relied on superior numbers and overwhelming firepower, Zethkar explained as the light intensified. But they have never faced an enemy that could turn their own weapons against them. The Ethon ships were not weapons platforms. They were energy manipulators, designed to redirect and amplify the fundamental forces of the universe. As the Krillian fleet opened fire with devastating barrages of particle beams and plasma torpedoes, the Ethon vessels absorbed the energy and reflected it back with exponential amplification. The first wave of redirected energy struck the Krillian formation like a hammer blow from the gods themselves. Ships that had seemed invincible suddenly found their own weapons turned against them, their hulls cracking under the weight of their own firepower multiplied 100-fold. Impossible, screamed Overlord Vexthul as his flagship shuddered under the impact of its own weapons. What technology is this? This is the technology of species that choose cooperation over conquest, Zethkar replied, his mental voice carrying across all communication channels. This is what happens when you threaten those who show kindness to strangers. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The Krillian Empire, which had conquered hundreds of worlds through superior firepower, found itself facing an enemy that turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Every shot they fired was amplified and returned. Every weapon they deployed became a tool of their own destruction. But the Ethon had not come alone. As the battle raged, new ships began appearing throughout the system. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Species that had been conquered by the Krillians, species that had been hiding in the shadows of the galaxy, species that had been waiting for someone to stand up to the seemingly invincible empire. Admiral Chen, came a transmission from a ship of unfamiliar design. This is Captain Terran of the Velthus Liberation Front. We've been monitoring your resistance to the Krillian Empire. Today, we join the fight for freedom. More transmissions followed. The Zephyrians, who had lost their homeworld to Krillian genocide, the Nathisa, whose entire civilization had been enslaved for 3 centuries, the Corvani, who had been forced to watch their children taken and converted into Krillian shock troops. What's happening? General Webb asked in amazement as the tactical display showed more and more alien vessels joining the battle. Word is spreading throughout the galaxy, Zethkar explained. For the first time in 1,000 years, someone is not just fighting the Krillians, but winning. Every oppressed species, every conquered world, every enslaved population is sending what ships they can. Sarah watched the tide of battle turn with growing amazement. What had begun as humanity's last stand was becoming the galaxy's first united uprising against tyranny. The Krillian Empire, which had seemed invincible just hours ago, was being overwhelmed by an alliance of species they had spent centuries oppressing. All ships, this is Admiral Chen, Sarah broadcast on all frequencies. Today we don't just fight for our own survival. We fight for every species that has ever faced extinction at the hands of tyrants. Today we prove that the galaxy belongs to those who choose hope over fear, cooperation over conquest. The final phase of the battle lasted another 6 hours. When it was over, the Krillian Empire's invasion fleet was completely destroyed. Overlord Vexthal's flagship was captured, and the architect of genocide found himself facing justice from the very species he had tried to exterminate. But more importantly, the battle had created something new in the galaxy, an alliance of species united not by conquest or fear, but by a shared commitment to protecting the innocent and defending the weak. As Sarah stood on the observation deck of the Defiance, watching the diverse fleet of liberation ships spread out across the solar system, she felt a profound sense of hope for the future. Dr. Elena Voss's simple act of kindness 25 years ago had saved more than one alien's life. It had saved the galaxy itself. The Alliance of Unlikely Heroes. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Galactic Liberation Council chambers on Luna Station, looking out at an assembly that would have been unimaginable just a year ago. Representatives from 47 different species sat in the circular chamber, their diverse forms creating a living testament to the variety of life in the galaxy. At the center of the assembly, Dr. Elena Voss, now 60 years old but with eyes that burned brighter than ever, was presenting her proposal for the Interspecies Medical Exchange Program. Beside her stood Supreme Commander Zethkar, his opalescent skin shifting through subtle patterns of light that Sarah had learned indicated deep satisfaction. The medical knowledge we've gained by combining human adaptive techniques with Ethan, energy healing has already saved millions of lives across 36 worlds, Elena was saying, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's advanced translation systems. But this is just the beginning. Each species here has developed unique solutions to the challenges of existence. By sharing this knowledge freely, we can eliminate suffering on a galactic scale. Sarah smiled as she watched the presentation. Elena's simple act of saving one alien's life had grown into something that would transform the galaxy forever. But the transformation wasn't complete yet. The Krillian Empire, though defeated at Earth, still controlled hundreds of worlds and billions of enslaved beings. Admiral Chen, came a familiar mental voice. Sarah turned to see Zethkar approaching her position at the edge of the assembly. The council has reached a decision about the liberation campaigns. Sarah nodded. For months, the newly formed alliance, had been debating whether to take their fight to the remaining Krillian territories. Some species wanted to consolidate their gains and focus on rebuilding. Others argued that as long as the Empire existed, no world would be truly safe. What did they decide? Sarah asked. Unanimous approval for Operation Starbreak, Zethkar replied, his mental voice carrying undertones of determination mixed with sadness. We will liberate every world still under Krillian control, but more than that, we will offer every species a choice. Join the Alliance as equals, or remain independent with our protection. No conquest, no forced integration, only freedom and the right to choose their own path. Sarah felt a surge of pride. This was what made the Alliance different from every other galactic power in history. They weren't fighting to replace the Krillian Empire with their own empire. They were fighting to ensure that no species would ever again face the choice between submission and extinction. When do we begin? Sarah asked. The first Liberation Fleet launches in 72 hours, Zethkar replied. But this campaign will require new strategies. The Krillians have had time to prepare, and they're entrenching themselves in fortress worlds with civilian populations as shields. Sarah's expression grew grim. The intelligence reports had been troubling. The remaining Krillian forces were using captured civilians as human shields, threatening to execute entire populations if liberation forces approached their strongholds. It was a tactic designed to paralyze the Alliance's moral compass. We'll need to be smarter than they are, Sarah said, and we'll need help from someone who understands both their psychology and their technology. The answer came from an unexpected source. During the Battle of Earth, the Alliance had captured thousands of Krillian prisoners, including several high-ranking commanders. Most had remained defiant, but a few had begun to question the Empire's ideology when they saw how the Alliance treated prisoners of war. Commander Thaxion had been the first to request asylum. A former Krillian battle strategist, he had watched his own people use civilian shields and had finally reached his breaking point. Now he stood before the assembled council, his reptilian features marked by the scars of internal conflict. The Empire's strength has always been its willingness to do what other species consider unthinkable, Thaxion said, his mechanical translator rendering his words in dozens of languages simultaneously. But that strength is also its greatest weakness. They cannot conceive of enemies who fight with honor while still achieving victory. What do you recommend? Admiral Chen asked. Precision strikes using combined human ethon technology, Thaxion replied. The Krillians expect either overwhelming force or cautious approach. They don't expect surgical precision that can neutralize their military assets while leaving civilian populations completely unharmed. Dr. Elena Voss stepped forward, her scientific mind already working through the possibilities. We could use modified ethon energy redirectors to create localized fields that shut down Krillian weapons and life support systems without affecting biological organisms. It would be like putting their entire military infrastructure to sleep, while leaving everyone else untouched. The development of what became known as the Mercy weapon took 3 months of intensive collaboration between human engineers, ethon energy specialists, and reformed Krillian technicians. The result was a technology that could selectively disable artificial systems while leaving all biological life completely unharmed. The first test came at the fortress world of Kalara Prime, where 50 million enslaved beings were being held as shields around the planet's massive military installations. The Liberation Fleet, led by the joint human ethon vessel UES-ACS Unity, approached the world with a small force of only 12 ships. Krillian Command, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Galactic Liberation Alliance, Sarah broadcast as the fleet entered the system. We're here to offer freedom to all beings on this world. Stand down your weapons and release the civilian populations, and we guarantee safe passage to any Krillian personnel who wish to leave peacefully. The response was predictably hostile. Human scum, came the reply from Governor Krextor. Approach this world and we will execute every civilian on the planet. Turn back or watch billions die by your choice. Sarah looked at Zethkar, who was serving as her co-commander on this mission. Are you ready to show them what mercy looks like? The mercy weapons are charged and targeted, Zethkar confirmed. All artificial systems will be disabled in 3 minutes. Biological life will be completely unaffected. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The Alliance ships fired their weapons not at the planet's surface but at carefully calculated points in space around the world. The energy beams intersected and amplified each other, creating a field that encompassed the entire planet. Every Krillian weapon system shut down simultaneously. Every military vehicle stopped functioning. Every communications array went dark, but the lights in civilian areas remained on, and the life support systems in the cities continued to operate normally. "This is impossible," Governor Krextor screamed over the emergency communication channels. "Our weapons are completely disabled, but the slaves are unharmed. What kind of witchcraft is this?" "This is what happens when you fight an alliance that values all life," Sarah replied calmly. "Your military capacity is neutralized, but every civilian on that planet is safe and unharmed. You can surrender now, or we can land troops and accept your surrender in person." The liberation of Kalara Prime was accomplished without a single civilian casualty. More importantly, it established a pattern that would be repeated across dozens of worlds. The Alliance didn't destroy Krillian strongholds, they simply made them irrelevant. But the real breakthrough came when the freed populations began to share their own knowledge and capabilities. The Corvani, who had been enslaved for centuries, possessed advanced biotechnology that could terraform dead worlds. The Zephyrians had developed FTL communication systems that could coordinate activities across galactic distances. The Nethisa had created artificial intelligence that could manage complex logistics for billion-being populations. "We're not just liberating worlds," Elena observed during one of their regular strategy meetings. "We're creating a new kind of civilization, one where every species contributes their unique strengths to the common good." The final battle of the Liberation Campaign took place at Krillex Prime, the Empire's homeworld, and the source of their genocidal ideology. Here, the Alliance faced not just military resistance, but the psychological challenge of confronting a species that had built its entire identity around the concept of racial superiority. The approach was different this time. Instead of immediately disabling the planet's defenses, the Alliance fleet simply took up positions in orbit and waited. Then they began broadcasting something the Krillians had never heard before: the testimonies of species they had tried to exterminate. "This is Healer Vexna of the Ethon Collective," came the first broadcast. "Your forces destroyed our colony of Luminara, killing 12 million beings who had never raised a weapon against you. But we do not seek revenge. We seek understanding. Why do you believe your species deserves to exist more than ours?" The broadcast continued for days, story after story of survival, of loss, of species that had been pushed to the brink of extinction, but had refused to give up hope. But most importantly, stories of forgiveness and the possibility of redemption. The breakthrough came when a group of young Krillian scientists who had been monitoring the broadcasts sent a secret communication to the Alliance fleet. "We have studied the genetic records of every species our empire has encountered," the message read. "We have discovered that all life in the galaxy shares common origins. We are not superior to other species. We are part of the same galactic family. Help us change our world." The final assault on Krillex Prime was unlike any military operation in galactic history. Instead of weapons, the Alliance deployed teachers, scientists, and healers. Instead of conquest, they offered education and the chance to rebuild Krillian society on principles of cooperation rather than domination. The transformation wasn't immediate or complete. Generations of genocidal ideology couldn't be undone in a matter of months. But for the first time in 1,000 years, young Krillians were learning that their strength came not from their ability to destroy others, but from their potential to create and heal. Admiral Sarah Chen stood once again on the observation deck of the UES Defiance, but this time she wasn't looking at the aftermath of battle. Below her, the surface of Krillax Prime sparkled with the lights of reconstruction. Krillian engineers worked alongside Ethon healers and human technicians, building schools where once there had been military academies, hospitals where once there had been weapons factories. "The transformation is remarkable," Dr. Elena Voss said, joining Sarah at the observation window. At 61, Elena moved with the careful grace of someone who had spent decades pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The young Krillians are learning faster than we dared hope. They're not just abandoning their old ways, they're actively working to undo the damage their empire caused. Sarah nodded, watching as a group of Krillian children played in a park that had been built on the site of a former execution ground. It's hard to believe that 18 months ago, we were preparing for humanity's extinction. Now we're helping to rebuild the civilization that nearly destroyed us. That's what makes us different, Elena replied. We don't just defeat our enemies. We help them become something better. The door to the observation deck slid open and Supreme Commander Zethkar entered, his bioluminescent patterns shifting to colors that Sarah had learned indicated profound satisfaction mixed with anticipation. Admiral Chen, Dr. Voss, I bring news from the Galactic Liberation Council. The final vote has been tallied. Sarah turned, her heart racing. The council had been debating for months about the creation of a permanent alliance structure that would prevent future genocidal empires from arising. The decision would determine whether the fragile peace they had built would survive the test of time. The resolution passes unanimously, Zethkar announced, his mental voice carrying overtones of joy. The Galactic Cooperation Compact is hereby established. 47 founding species with provisions for any peaceful civilization to join as equals. No member species will be forced to participate in actions they find morally objectionable, but all will be protected from aggression. Elena felt tears of relief streaming down her face. We actually did it. We built something better. But that's not the most remarkable part, Zethkar continued. The Compact's first major initiative has been approved. The Elena Voss Institute for Interspecies Cooperation will be established on 17 worlds, with the mandate to study and preserve the cultures of all member species. The goal is to ensure that never again will any civilization face the choice between cultural extinction and physical annihilation. Sarah laughed, a sound filled with genuine happiness. Elena, you've gone from a censured xenobiologist to having institutes named after you. How does it feel to know that your simple act of kindness has transformed the entire galaxy? Elena looked out at the lights of the rebuilding world below, then at the stars beyond, where dozens of species were working together to create something unprecedented in galactic history. It feels like the beginning of something wonderful, but it also feels like a tremendous responsibility. We've proven that small acts of compassion can have enormous consequences. Now we have to make sure those consequences continue to be positive. The next few years would test that resolve. The Compact faced challenges from within and without. Some member species struggled with the concept of true equality, having been either oppressors or oppressed for so long that they had forgotten how to be simply equals. Others questioned whether the alliance was moving too slowly or too quickly in its efforts to rehabilitate former Krillian territories. But each challenge was met with the same approach that had made the alliance possible in the first place: patience, understanding, and the unwavering belief that cooperation was stronger than conquest. When the Vorthak Confederation attempted to exploit the power vacuum left by the Krillian Empire's collapse, they found themselves facing not just human warships or ethon energy weapons, but a united response from 47 different species, each contributing their unique strengths to the common defense. The Vorthak's attempted conquest lasted exactly 6 days before they requested negotiations. They had expected to face a typical military response and had prepared accordingly. They had not expected to encounter an alliance that could simultaneously defend itself militarily, provide humanitarian aid to Vorthak civilians, and offer the Confederation a place in the galactic community as equals rather than subjects. Dr. Elena Voss celebrated her 70th birthday in the research station orbiting the planet New Harmony, where Krillian and human scientists worked together to develop new medical technologies that could heal injuries that had been considered permanent for millennia. The celebration was attended by representatives from every member species of the Compact, including several young Krillians who had become leading researchers in xenobiology. Dr. Voss, said researcher Kextha, a Krillian whose scales had been artificially modified to show the bioluminescent patterns of friendship that the ethon had taught them. I wanted to thank you personally, not just for what you did for Commander Zethkar, but for what you've done for my people. You showed us that our strength doesn't come from our ability to destroy, but from our capacity to heal and create. Elena smiled, looking around at the diverse gathering of beings who had once been enemies but were now friends, colleagues, and family. Kextha, you don't need to thank me. We all did this together. Every species, every individual who chose cooperation over conquest, understanding over hatred. That's what made the difference. Admiral Sarah Chen, now in her 50s and serving as the Compact's first Supreme Military Coordinator, raised her glass in a toast. To Dr. Elena Voss, who proved that the smallest acts of kindness can change the course of history, and to all of us, who proved that the universe is large enough for everyone to find their place in it. The toast was repeated in 47 different languages, creating a harmony of voices that seemed to echo across the stars themselves. As the celebration continued into the night, Elena found herself standing alone on the observation deck, looking out at the lights of New Harmony below. The planet had been dead when they found it, stripped of life by Krillian industrial extraction. Now it bloomed with gardens that combined the botanical knowledge of a dozen species, and its cities hummed with the activity of beings who had learned to see diversity as strength rather than threat. Zethkar joined her at the window, his presence as calming as it had been that first day in the crashed ship 25 years ago. What are you thinking about, old friend? Elena smiled at the informal address. The rigid formality of their early interactions had given way to genuine friendship over the years. I'm thinking about ripples, she said. How one small decision can spread outward in ways we never imagined. I saved your life because it was the right thing to do. I never dreamed it would lead to this. Perhaps that's the most important lesson of all, Zethkar replied. We never know which of our actions will echo through time. The only choice we have is to make sure that each action, no matter how small, is guided by compassion rather than fear, by hope rather than hatred. Elena nodded, thinking of all the young beings down on the planet's surface, growing up in a galaxy where cooperation was the norm rather than the exception, where diversity was celebrated rather than feared, where no species would ever again face the choice between submission and extinction. The debt has been paid, she said quietly. No, Zethkar corrected gently. The debt has been transformed. It's no longer a debt between our species, but a responsibility we all share. Every being who benefits from the Compact, every world that joins the Alliance, every child who grows up in a galaxy where their differences are valued rather than feared, they all carry part of that debt forward. Elena understood. The simple act of saving one life had created not just an alliance but a philosophy. The Galactic Cooperation Compact wasn't just a political organization, it was a living testament to the idea that kindness, given freely, and without expectation of reward, could literally change the universe. As the years passed, the Compact continued to grow. New species joined not through conquest or coercion, but through invitation and example. The Elena Voss Institutes became centers of learning that preserved and celebrated the unique contributions of each member civilization. The Mercy weapons were retired, their technology repurposed for terraforming and healing rather than warfare, and in the deepest archives of the Compact's historical records, carefully preserved for future generations, was the simple medical report that Dr. Elena Voss had filed after treating an injured alien pilot on a remote mining station. The report that had started it all with a single line. Life preserved regardless of species. No payment requested or required. The galaxy had learned that the greatest debts were not those paid in blood or gold, but those paid in kindness, understanding, and the unwavering belief that every being deserved the chance to live, grow, and contribute to the greater community of life among the stars. The healer's debt had been transformed into the galaxy's greatest gift, hope.